and welcome to KIKAO, your weekly focus on Africa's agriculture. My name is Joy Kiiru. This week, we answer that big question. Is there a connection between global pandemics and conflicts in distant lands on the one hand, and the prices of food in the store or market near you? Let's now join Dr. Canisius Kanangire, the Executive Director of AATF, as he engages his panel on our topic for the week.
The prices of basic commodity across Africa and the world have skyrocketed in recent times. There have been many theories seeking to explain these trends, ranging from political events to global happenings, such as COVID-19 pandemic, the Ukraine-Russia conflict, and drought. In this episode of KIKAO, we will highlight these recent trends, their drivers, and the impact they are likely to have on food production, trade, and access in Africa. We will particularly focus on understanding how these global crises that are unfolding thousands of miles away are impacting rural villages on the African continent. Further, we will examine some actions that can be undertaken to deal with the challenge in both the short and long run. I'm Dr. Canisius Kanangire, the Executive Director, AATF, and on the program this week, I'm hosting Ambassador Carla Mucavi, the Food and Agriculture Organization of the United Nations, FAO, Kenya Country Representative, and Dr. Joy Kiiru from the Department of Economics, the University of Nairobi, Kenya. You are welcome.
Thank you.
What would you say are the challenges people are facing on the African continent with the current rise of prices of basic commodities like food and fuel?
First and foremost, of course, is the erosion of incomes. People are watching every day as their normal incomes are buying less and less than they used to buy before. And that means that you're talking about reduced incomes. We are likely to see increases in poverty. We are likely to see increases in starvation or inadequate food for people. And of course, if it's not checked, then if we follow that trend, then you're likely to see also impacts on health if the situation is not checked enough. And of course, if we still don't check it enough and we continue like this, citizens will be angry. We'll be staring at civil unrest, especially in the context of political happenings in some countries.
So there are so many challenges which can come with this rise of prices, going from malnutrition, which impact the health of people, and of course, food security is somehow related to security in general.
That's true. Actually, the soaring of food prices and fuel is really impacting on food security and nutrition. Coming from the Food and Agriculture Organization of the United Nations, the last actually report, which we call the Global Report on Food Crisis, is already indicating that globally we're talking about 192 million of people that are really food insecure. Why are they food insecure? Even before really the war in Ukraine, this number was also there. So of course we are really working at the statistics, and surely it will increase. And this is because, again, about climate change, the impact of climate change. We see really prolonged drought, intense floods. In Kenya, where we are, actually, we just concluded, or we just controlled the invasion of the desert locust. That really impacted again, on the communities, particularly in northern East Kenya, and this again really impacting on food and nutrition security of the communities. So to say that really what we are experiencing now with the soaring of food prices, it will really even deepen and impact even more on food security and nutrition.
So tell me, how can you explain the current rise of the price of those commodities, especially food and fuel?
Three main. Sorry.
Yeah, Elder.
Yeah, no, thank you again, ED. Actually, the soaring of the prices and what we see now is really a combination of factors, but really mainly the war in Ukraine that has really contributed to the disruption of the food supplies. Unfortunately, that's the reality. The world is global. We live in a globalized world. We are so interconnected. So what happened really, even if we think that is really far away from us, it really impacts us, impact on us. So to say that, of course, the disruption of food supply, it means that, of course, the food that we're really importing, because we have to take into consideration that both Ukraine and Russia are really very important suppliers of grains, of oil, of fertilizers that we in this continent are importing. So, of course, with this disruption of food suppliers, with the restrictions of grains, of really cereals and oil, which means that is there are restrictions, they are limited, of course, possibilities of buying it, and then the food, of course, the prices increases.
Yes.
So this is what we are saying. I would really say, but mainly is really the disruption of food supplies, and we saw it also with COVID-19 when countries really started to restrict their, of course, exports to countries that were importing, and we are really importing in the continent around even 30%, and there are countries that are importing even more. Wheat, cereals, fertilizers. So of course, if there is this disruption in the market, of course the price increases, and of course the impact is what we see.
Joy, you wanted to say something, and
yes, I was just trying to say that the main causes, of course, she's already gone into depth, but just in brief, the main causes would actually be those three. First, there is the climate change, the failed crops. You know, we just had a bad disruption by drought, meaning that we had our crops on that failed, especially in Kenya, meaning that the food supply was low. That's one thing. The other thing is we're talking about the disruption by the COVID-19, the supply disruptions in terms of raw materials, and also now we are talking about imported inflation because of the high fuel prices. There's nothing we can do about the fuel prices here. It's like we are helpless. So we just get it at the price at which it is at, which is really going up sharply. Meaning that now the price, the cost of production is going high. And this is happening within such short spans, and also not the war in Russia, which just happened. And even before, when it was clear that Russia was going into war, the prices of oil even started reacting immediately, even before the war happened. And then now there's fertilizers and all that. The cost of fertilizer has really gone up in Kenya. 6,000 per bag is pretty high for a subsistence farmer, for a small-scale farmer. So all the combination of all those is a sharp increases in food prices, which is really, I want to call it a crisis, even though it's not being declared.
It is indeed. And you talked about all this happening, and I would say the skyrocketing of the prices is a compounded effect of things which were already bad and which have worsened with the Ukraine-Russia war. But I want to come back to almost what you said to make it very clear. What can you say are the specific impact that this rise of price are having on the ordinary citizen of this continent?
Hunger.
Hunger. Exacerbating hunger, because she said there was already hunger. Yes, please continue.
I was looking at the food price, just a normal basket of food from the Kenya National Bureau of Statistics. The statistics there, the normal food like the skuma wiki, the tomato, the cooking oil, and all that. Between 2021 and this time round, it's gone up by almost like 20%. On average, it was about 18%. But for some Yes, on average, the common basket for the normal mwananchi. We're not talking about meat here. We're not talking about luxurious things in quotes like eggs. Just the normal things that you go to the market and buy, the skuma wiki, the flour. You're talking about the bread. You're talking about the potatoes and all that. The common thing, it has gone up by almost, some of them is more than 20, but when you looked at the average, it was about 18% within such a short time. That is quite an increase.
Hunger is increasing.
Yes.
And
Hunger.
malnutrition for sure.
Hunger,
for
malnutrition, and of course deep in poverty. You know, we really have serious problems of access to food and particularly affordability, because of course the communities will not have those resources, the income, you know, to be able, of course, really to access and to buy food. And of course, we see the combination of factors. COVID-19 had already left so many people, you know, out of their jobs. So which means that, of course, they are really in a situation of vulnerability. So with the increase of really the food prices and the fuel, this will really deepen even more. So we will really see here a situation of really changing of maybe dietary. People will really, of course, have to drop maybe their, you know, one of their meals.
Some of what, a meal.
Because they will not afford, for instance, to have 3 meals a day. They will not be able to have, of course, nutritious food, which is somehow diversify. Maybe it will mean more resources in order to buy. So actually, at the end of the day, we'll see, you know, food insecurity deepening, in malnutrition, which is already acute. We are talking, for instance, in the world about 92, of course, thousand of kids under the age of 5 that are really malnourished. But there is another phenomenon that we really already see, particularly in the urban settings, which is obesity. People are not really eating healthy food because, of course, they don't have access, because it's expensive. It's going to be even more expensive. So you will go for fast food, non-nutritious food. So which means that you have, of course, to see obesity also increasing, which has a big impact, of course, on health conditions.